Welcome, everyone, back to Go Lurk Yourself podcast 2018. My name is Crunky.
And I am Cherry Cake.
First off the top, I want to apologize to everybody for our lapse in regular episodes for the last 6 or so weeks. I can speak for Cherry a little bit because we talked about it, but with the holidays, I changed positions at work and ended up putting in a lot of extra time. Cherry Cake also started a new job. Is that right, Cherry?
Continued a new job, but yeah, it's been a busy time anyway.
And with her being on the other side of the planet from me, it's been hard for us to find the right time. I mean, we were 5 hours difference, I think.
Yes, yeah, 5 hours, yeah.
Yeah, so basically about the time I'm getting home from work and with working longer hours, she's got to go to bed. And then on the weekends, we both have family lives outside of just doing this stuff, and we're both streamers, so it's been really hard to get a schedule out. That's not an excuse, just really the reality of what happened to us over the holidays. But one of my aims is to get back to regularly publishing episodes. Cherry and I discussed, I think yesterday, or maybe it was earlier today, trying to get onto a 2-a-month schedule, and if we can beat that, so be it. Does that sound good to you?
That sounds absolutely fine to me.
Well, it's 2018 now. It's January. We've got a couple of guests in the works to get some episodes recorded. We plan on doing that one way or another, whether it's one or both of us. We'll have to figure it out. But we wanted to take this episode today and talk about 2017. I think it just doing some year-end reading and talking with friends and on stream. 2017 may be remembered as one of the best gaming years in recent history. Would you say so?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
I mean, from a 30,000-foot level, you've got the Nintendo Switch, I think, hit bigger than anybody expected, including Nintendo, except for us diehard fans, right, Sherry?
Well, you include yourself in that. You're obviously more of a Nintendo fanboy than me, so yeah, I'll put you in that category.
Yeah, that's fair. Mine's based in pointless nostalgia, but it was a big hit. I mean, they've sold what they say they've already outsold, it was the number one selling console over the holidays this year, which is, I know you're not comparing apples to apples because the other consoles have been out for a few years, but Nintendo's got to take the big wins where they can get them after the disaster that was the Wii U.
Oh yeah, definitely. But the Switch in and of itself is just a little masterpiece, I think. Anyway, so for it to outsell anything like the Xbox One, I'm assuming you were comparing it to?
The Xbox One, and I think it sold better than the PS4 during the holiday stretch, just in raw numbers.
Yeah. I don't like calling the Switch a console as such because they're so different compared to like a PS4 or an Xbox. It's almost in like a category of its own, but I can definitely see why it's been such a high seller.
Yeah, it definitely crosses that blurry line between a mobile device or a portable device and a home console. That's what I love about it.
Yeah, the fact that you can just pick it up and take it with you wherever you want to go and carry on from exactly where you were.
Well, so we got the Switch this year, which came with some powerhouse games, Mario Odyssey, which I'm sure we'll dive into in a little bit, Zelda Breath of the Wild, which seems like forever ago, but it was 2017. We had, PUBG was huge this year, kind of took the whole gaming world by storm. There's lots of clones now in the woodwork to try to take over for it. We've got a couple big PR disasters too, with the loot box kind of blew up this year with Battlefront 2. We had an episode recorded to release in December with it, but a friend of ours was sick and it just was not a great audio quality, so we decided not to put it out rather than put out bad content. But I'm trying to remember. The reason I brought it up is I'm trying to remember how much of it I talked about on podcasts. I don't think we talked any about it. But basically, for those who don't know, there was a huge backlash that affected the bottom line, the sales of that game, and that player progression and the fun factor and skill was basically dependent on whether or not how much in-game currency or actually in-game real money you spent to get more chances of getting better loot and upgrades, almost like a pay-to-win. Really turned me off of it. I never played it, but I followed it closely because I'm just interested in that gaming news.
And you're a huge Star Wars fan as well, so.
Oh my! You know how many nerds just screamed out in agony?
I know. I'm sorry. I knew I was going to mess it up.
But to be fair, I'm both. So.
Yeah, that's true. But also this year, I don't know if you forgot, but one that I really loved when it came out was Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. Last year, 2017, if you want to class that.
That was a big return to form, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was such a step in a different direction for Resident Evil as well, because it's first person view. It's not third person. It's not over the shoulder. It's very graphically, it looks incredible, and the story to it is okay as far as I've seen. There are various endings to it as well that you can get and go back and unlock, and there's a load of DLC for it as well. So it's a really great game.
Yeah, I didn't play it, but I watched our friend Bishiv, twitch.tv/BSHIV, play it quite a bit, and including some of the DLC. It looked like a really good experience because you said they went to first person mode, right?
Yes, they did. Yeah, it's the first time that I've done that. They've done that, as far as I'm aware.
It seems to. I remember playing the old Resident Evil games, and with it being third person and bouncing off the walls a little bit, the controls are a little bit clunky.
Yeah, and also I think like the Resi games beforehand kind of went into like the it almost was like a joke. They weren't particularly scary. The monsters that you were fighting against were a bit, clownish. But with going into first person, it gives you a whole different dynamic and perspective, and it creates more of a horror feel to it, which is what Resident Evil should be.
Yeah, I can remember specifically, like, I don't know if you've seen any of the movies, but they start treading that line between horror and camp, and they definitely slid over the line into camp more.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, also in 2017, we got two new, mid-cycle consoles in the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X. I don't have either one of those, but I kind of follow that news, where you could still play the same games. They just had mildly upgraded features.
Yes, the Xbox One X introduced 4K graphics capabilities as well. I don't know about the PS4 Pro. I don't know if that introduced 4K to it.
It's kind of a dynamic scaling 4K where it can, it'll put 4K, but it'll kind of reduce it down when it needs to.
Yeah.
But, we also had some pretty big IPs released. In new IPs, we had Horizon Zero Dawn, which kind of was not exactly like Breath of the Wild, but more narrative-driven, big budget, open world game that hit really big. My wife played it a little bit. I have not started it. Talking earlier about being busy, but
I don't know what it is about that game, but it's just one of those that I know I will never play. I don't know if it's just the genre of it or the look of it, but there's something about the game that just doesn't draw me to it.
Yeah, you're not much of a sci-fi type, are you?
Not particularly, no.
Well, we also got games like For Honor, got some mild buzz, and then they've definitely done some work to bring that game back around. For those who don't know, it's a online competitive medieval sword and axe fighting game, and it has some moderate success, and it's got a rolling model of basically getting in-game items for cash. So that's how they're trying to keep that thing going. I got it for free with my graphics card purchase earlier in the year, and I played it. It was a neat concept, but it quickly fizzled out for me.
Yeah, I got there was a free demo on the PS4 if you had the PlayStation Plus, and I think I played the demo, and by the time I'd done the demo, or the demo was over, I'd had my fill of it, and that was it.
With also another game that came out from the Ninja Gaiden team, a game called Nioh, Nioh. That was I hate to say Dark Souls clone, but it's clearly inspired by it, but with more like feudal Japan inspiration. I've seen a lot of my friends play it. It's one of those games that I know when the mood hits me right, I'm going to sink my teeth into it. I just haven't got it yet. I had it on PC or PS4 earlier in the year, never found time to put it in, and ended up taking it back and trading it in towards some other games, figuring I'd get it on PC later this year, but I just haven't had a chance to play it. I definitely will play it 2018 though.
Yeah. Speaking of Nioh, because it always reminds me and will forever remind me of Nier Automata, which I know you have played 3 times through, is it?
Well, it's a weird game. I've not. There's basically 5 key endings that everyone recommends you play, and they're lettered A, B, C, and D, and E. And I've played. I'm about partway through D, and it's on my list of like best games of this year. At the end of the podcast, we'll talk about our favorite games of the year. It's definitely on there. It's what I love about it is it's a game that does something I've never seen before, and that's tell its story through multiple narratives by having you complete the same parts of the story through different characters. And because of the mechanic of the world of the narrative of they're machines that can basically have their consciousness downloaded and put in a new body, they do some really neat existential question what is life and what constitutes life and what does it mean to survive. Without getting into spoiler territory, I will just say it was a unique experience that I didn't expect. It actually, a guy we had on the podcast before, Chichen, his name was Chichen LOL, Chichen Lol, but he changed it to just Chichen, Chichen. I think he's episode 3 of the podcast. You can go back and listen to him. He recommended it to me highly based on some discussions that we had about games we liked, and he was absolutely right. He's 3 for 3 in recommending games to me. It was absolutely amazing.
So other ones that you might have forgotten that were released last year, Cuphead and Destiny 2, which we have played Destiny 2. We did a whole podcast on that, which again, you can go back and listen to. I don't think my opinion has changed on Destiny 2. We haven't really played it since that podcast. There has been DLC for it, which I know you have played that, Grunk?
As much as of it I could stand. Destiny 2 was a white hot experience for me. It was awesome until I got to the end of the content, and then it was gone as soon as it came on. I loved it for about 4 weeks, and then man, I could not be hassled to even log in. It just got, I have people mad at me about it because they're like, oh, you were leading these raids, now you're no longer here. I'm like, man, I'm not gonna go do these raids if I'm not enjoying it, and I was not enjoying it at all.
Yeah, it's definitely limited content for it at the moment. I don't know if they have any plans for any future releases for DLC for it. I don't know.
Yeah, they've got a second DLC coming out in months, I think sometime in the spring, and then they've got more after that they're talking about. But there's been a huge public backlash against that game as far as what industry sites are saying, and like other gaming news I've read that it's taken some hits. It sold really well, but I think once people got it in their hands and did kind of like the way we did, we just burned it up and then we were bored to tears with it.
Yeah, definitely.
Other big releases of 2017. It's hard for me to think about it as a 2017 game, but Mario Kart 8 was the deluxe version, was really well received. It did really well. I played it. I play it from time to time with some friends on stream, but I played so much of it on the Wii U that I'm kind of like, and Mario Kart's been around a while. I've kind of burned out on it.
Yeah, for sure. My sister got that for her Switch when she got it just before Christmas, and I tell you, it's such a fun game if you can get the family around and play that on the big screen. If you haven't had a good Mario Kart game for a long time, which we haven't, to sit down and play it and see your parents playing it or your brothers and sisters playing it with you, it's so much fun. It really is.
Now, have you gone and played the battle modes that came in the deluxe version yet?
Yes, yeah, we did. Yeah,
that reminds me of friends of mine and I in college in 97, when the N64 was new. We used to play that until like 4 o'clock in the morning on a little 17-inch CRT TV.
Yeah, I forgot about the N64 version. I think we had that as well.
I never played the SNES version, but the N64 version was the first Mario Kart I played. But that battle mode, man, we could just play it all hours of the night.
I will tell you now, I did play the SNES version on stream, and my word, that is hard.
Yeah,
the way they've set up the AI in that game is to make it hard for you. I don't know if it's like physically possible to actually beat your rival, I guess, in that game.
Yeah, that game it has not aged well. It's funny because we were talking about 2017, and my wife Dee, I got her luckily I was in like a couple days before Christmas shopping with my daughter, and some guys like we're over there in the video game area, and he's like, "Hey, do you want a SNES? We just got 2 in. I'm about to put them out." I go, "Yeah, I'll take one." And then I gave it to Dee because she loves the SNES. That's her favorite console of all time. And she was playing Star Fox, and she goes, "Wait a minute, this game sucks." All you have to do is beat Star Fox on the SNES Classic in order to unlock Star Fox 2, which is a never before released version or game. All you have to do is beat the first level of Star Fox 1. And she's like, "Nope, no, I'm not doing it. I don't want to be punished for finishing this level."
Speaking of the SNES Mini, I was watching another streamer the other day doing playing on it as we were doing a retro stream. Can you explain to me how many games are actually on that console?
It's like 20 or 24. It's not a whole lot. It comes.
But you have to unlock them.
There's one you have to unlock. It's whatever, Star Fox 2.
Oh right, okay.
But it's a really nice package. It's a lot like the NES Classic, which I got the year before. That you can, save state everything. You can. So like if it's a real difficult old school game and you're having real trouble with it, you can literally save scum it like you could a PC game.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I used to in my younger days be like holier than thou about that, but now as I get a little older, I'm like, I know I possess the skill. I don't have anything to prove to beat this game without save scumming, but I just don't have the time.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I have all these grand ideas for, putting out regular podcast episodes, streaming full time and working and having having a husband,
Whoa.
being a husband, having a wife. No, I don't have any plans on having a husband. Sorry, guys. But and then trying to be a father to my daughter, and I built her a gaming PC for Christmas this year, so helping her get up and running and play games with mom and me, and it's been a lot of fun. But there's only so many hours of the day, and you got to carve it all up. And I have to play my 40 hours a week of PUBG still.
This is true. Yes.
And I said,
doing that after this.
Well, putting out podcasts, I might as well edit together some PUBG videos too and put them on my YouTube channel while I'm at it, and that takes time. And it's like. Plus, being a raging alcoholic takes a lot of time too.
Oh God!
And just to add fire or add fuel on this fire, maybe you guys haven't seen it, but Dee and I have started from time to time doing a multicam board game stream on our channels, and that takes some setup and some patience. Especially our friend Gorby, who plays a lot of PUBG with us. In fact, he just texted me right now, "Hey, come play some PUBG." He sent for Dee for her birthday. It was very nice of him. Sent her a copy of the Dark Souls board game, and because when we went to visit him over the summer, and one of their friends had the game, and Dee was just like, "I love board games. I love Dark Souls," and lit up. And so we learned how to play it and streamed it. I think we were like, what was it, 4 to 5, maybe 6 hours. We streamed it the first night to play the game through one time. And I'm like, this is exactly what I need, is more shit to do. Also in 2017, other big, I know I'm focusing on Switch here, but ARMS and Splatoon 2 were pretty good first party games. Nintendo really hit it out of the park by making a smart concept in the mobile or the portable device / home console that's quickly and easily switches between the two, and then they put out a good first party game every month, almost all the way up until I think in December they put out DLC for Zelda, and then they put out one of my games of the year, which was Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Excellent JRPG, super complicated, takes forever. I think I've got 120 or 170 hours in it in December. Pretty ridiculous.
When did Xenoblade get released?
December 4th, I want to say.
So it was before the Game Awards took place. Sorry, it was after the Game Awards took place.
Yeah, it was either like right after or maybe like the Tuesday before or something like that. And yeah,
that's a shame.
Well, that game is notoriously poorly received in the West because it's very anime looking, and that can turn some people off. It's very like hypersexualized. The main character on the front has got like the biggest set of boobs on an anime character you've ever seen, right on the cover, and you're like, what is this?
Yeah, if it sells.
Well, you think it would, but and there's people who aren't going to buy those kind of things for younger generation, and they probably shouldn't. But it's an amazingly complicated game, and if you're the type of JRPG player who loves complicated systems, you can't do better than this game. but that can turn some people off too.
Yeah, I have seen you stream it a couple of times, but you did say that you felt it wasn't the kind of game that you enjoyed streaming. Why? Well, no.
Well, because it's such a immersive experience, that game. You have to focus on a lot. The combat is very interactive because you have to pay attention to what's triggering what, because you manage a party and everyone has a damage type. If you ever played Pokemon, this is probably real simple. I don't play a lot of Pokemon, but basically you have a fire sword, and if the fire sword hits and it triggers this reaction, then your other character can trigger something else, and you chain these combos together, and the combat lasts a while. You fight these giant monsters, and the only way to take them down is to master this fairly complicated system, and that can take a lot of attention away. And what I find is I can't enjoy doing that if I'm also reading chat, trying to be a good streamer, interact with people, talk to people, and something suffers. Either I play the game poorly because I'm interacting with chat, or I don't interact with chat, which is a bad thing to do when you're streaming, or some half-assed version of each.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, if you do have a game like that, which does require your full attention, and there's a lot of text or a lot of in-depth like leveling systems, from what I've seen, it's quite detailed.
Yeah, it's a little tedious at the end because even for my taste, and I love the detailed, tedious systems, but it's a little too tedious toward the end because they give you a pretty tall order of stuff you need to do right at the end, right as the story gets really compelling, and you just want to kind of finish it out, see the ending. The bad guy's taken so-and-so to someplace and you're chasing them, but now you got to stop and go farm for 20 hours. Otherwise you're going to get roasted by the boss.
Yeah. Fair enough.
And it kind of takes me back to when I was a kid and was playing like Final Fantasy. It got just a little bit tedious at the end. I'm almost done with it, but again, the common theme for today is finding time to do it all.
Yeah, I imagine it's one of those games that does take up a lot of your time, similar to Nier Automata.
I'm here. Yep. Hey, welcome, Gorby. How you doing?
Hi, Gorby.
Good.
You're here just in time to talk about 2017 games. We've talked about a little bit about Nier. I was just talking about Xenoblade. I'm sure you have some thoughts on Xenoblade.
Yep. It's a great game that I played way too much in 1 week and burned out of.
You only played it for a week? I thought you played for like 3.
I did, but it got really hard for me.
Gotcha. Was your biggest problem with it the game itself, or just the lack of time to commit to a game of that depth?
Number 2, because it's
that's what I was just saying.
It's just too much. I got a lot going on personally, so it's really just a lot of work.
I was just telling Cherry, in not so many words, but it's like the game that I wish would have been around and available when I was about 14 for multiple reasons, but primarily because I had the fucking time to play it.
Yeah, I get it. That's the same. That's how I feel about most MMOs, actually.
Exactly. I've had some friends talk about, let's go play this WoW expansion again, and just talking, not really trying to recruit me, but talking about it. And I'm like, man, who has the time to dedicate to that anymore? Because I can't play WoW casually. I always kid myself and say, that's what I'll do. I'll go play an MMO casually. And then
to be fair, you really don't play any game casually. We were kind of talking about this yesterday. You are a rabbit hole guy. You try and figure out the best way to play a game. Correct?
I mean, most of the time, yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. It was not an assault. It's just when I play them, I just shut my brain off and click or push buttons.
I mean, that's fair. I can see that. There are games that I play just for fun that I don't get super competitive about, but most of the time, if I'm playing a game that has like an achievable goal or a goal of getting better, like just thinking through PUBG, how do we get more chicken dinners? That's the fun part.
Yeah, but half the time that's not your personal fault. Most of the time it's the actual servers.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that but you guys, I take a lot of shit because sometimes I get a little grumpy about keeping us on track, but figuring out, I think it's very interesting and neat to put us in the best position statistically to get there toward the end and have a shot at it. And I think we've done that pretty well. I mean, how many chicken dinners have we got since we've been playing this game, would you say? More than the average, I'm sure.
I actually couldn't tell you.
I mean, would you say it's more than 50?
50 chicken dinners? No.
I don't think so.
I would say the 20 to 35 personally range. Maybe more. It's hard to tell because they keep resetting your progress.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. Yeah.
There was a time before the last update, or 2 updates ago, where I had 27 between all the servers we were playing on, and that was before even the one patch before 1.0 came out.
That's wonderful.
But yeah, so we're kind of all over the place because the structure of this is pretty poor. But 2017, what was your biggest surprise game, Cherry?
Biggest surprise?
One that you weren't looking forward to necessarily or didn't know anything about, but you played it and ended up loving it.
I think Cuphead falls into that category because it was something I was aware of, but never really anything that I, was waiting for it to be released. And then eventually when it did, there was a lot of hype around it. Everyone was really into it and saying it was going to be like really, really nice graphically looking game. And the gameplay was going to be awesome as well. And I picked it up, and it, as frustrating and as annoying and as rage-inducing as it was a really good game. And yeah, I understood where the hype was coming from. So yeah, Cuphead for me was definitely one of them.
I can agree with that. I didn't finish it because of the rage you talked about, but I absolutely enjoyed watching it and seeing the hype around it and appreciating it for just how fluid and unique it was. You'd never seen a game like it before because no one's cell shaded cell drew an entire game like that.
Yeah, exactly. The art style of it is so incredible. It's not anything that I have ever seen recently. Anyway, it's such a hark back to the old Disney style animation, like the way they used to do stuff like that, and it's that kind of nostalgia as well, which really sets it apart from any kind of run and gun. I don't think there have been many run and guns this year in particular, which is why it might stand out. But yeah, the whole package as itself adds up to one great game.
That's for sure. Did you play it, Gorby?
Yes, with a 5-year-old. And
how'd that go?
Quickly, I fell off. Based on he really loves the game and my daughter really loves the game, and I think it's a wonderful game that I don't particularly want to pressure myself to get through.
Yeah, it can be a bit tedious as well, I think.
Right.
Yeah, there was definitely a part on that where I lost my head and I needed a break from it, otherwise I was going to smash something. I think I probably did smash something in the end, but it's what you were saying about Dark Souls, Crunk, was when you have been on a boss or a particular area for a certain amount of time, you just keep dying and dying and dying over and over. And once you get past that, it's such a euphoria that you get. And I got that with Cuphead. I didn't get it with Dark Souls, but I got it with Cuphead. So that is what put me onto wanting to finish the game, and eventually did.
It's funny because I watched you play that, and you talk about Gorby was talking about rabbit holes. That's a game I've never seen you get. I've never seen you get into a game like you did that one when you played it earlier this year. You were just like all about it all day, every day. And then it reminded me a lot of like the original Mega Man games. Gorby, you play those?
Yes, it is very much like a Mega Man game. I would agree.
And it made me actually, when the Mega Man series came up to Steam for like $4, I was like, yeah, I'm going to get that because it's like all the Mega Man games.
I don't think you could pay me $4 to even play one anymore.
It's nostalgic for me. It's not like I really enjoy the games as much. It's just kind of, oh yeah, I remember this area and this part was cool. And I remember this as a kid playing this. But what was your big surprise game this year, Gorby?
Well, I'm going to go to a series because certainly there was a lot of sequels this year, but Resident Evil 7 surprised the heck out of me.
We just mentioned that.
Yeah, it definitely surprised me. I don't know if you guys liked it. I liked it a lot until the last probably act of the game, last like third. But it's a really interesting really good creepy, really just it was a fun game. And based on the last 2 Resident Evils, main story Resident Evils, I did not particularly like 5, and I definitely did not like 6, but 4, of course, is probably my favorite. So 7 was probably my biggest surprise. I wasn't sure what to expect.
Yeah, them to be able to pull off, it's not very often the 7th game in a series is something surprising and new and interesting, different, and it works. Usually,
Final Fantasy VII, I'll have you know.
It's said very often.
But the difference between Final Fantasy is they have the chance to do that every time because it's always a different story. Resident Evil has kept the story arc, at least, somewhat, in the background. It's usually about Umbrella. Thank you. I couldn't think of that name.
You don't remember it from the cinematic masterpieces that are those movies?
Yeah, sorry, Grant.
I've never seen one.
Now you mention it, Gorby, you're right, because they have recurring characters, don't they? In this
Typically.
one, I can't remember the name of the guy that's in it, but the new DLC that's just been released, you get to play as him.
Isn't it Chris? I assume it's Chris.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Chris,
yeah, that's the difference. Is like you have an individual anthology. Basically, every story is separate in Final Fantasy, but Resident Evil, I don't know what they did differently, and that's the only reason I've considered getting PlayStation VR. And in fact, I'm just going to invite a buddy over who has it to try out Resident Evil in VR.
So you can crap your pants in real time?
It was literally the first game I've ever felt creeped out, at least at some point. No other game has done that to me in my entire life.
Really? Wow.
Is that down to the first-person view, though?
It maybe, but I've played other games that were horror first persons.
One game that really creeped me out and got into my head was Doom 3. As much as people hate that game, it really was effective on me.
Well, yeah.
Silent Hill 3 did that to me.
I never liked the Silent Hills. I don't know why.
They scare me.
I get it. It's just, I don't know. And I think the reason I felt that way with Resident Evil 7 is Chainsaw Massacre is just my favorite horror movie of all time. But there's a scene where they're having dinner, and it has that same feeling. They pulled it off. I was very impressed.
The other thing about that game is that everything just looks so grimy and dirty and gross. Like, what that moment when they're having dinner and they try and force feed you whatever it is that's on the spoon. Oh my word. Because it's in first person as well, it's like it's coming at you, it's going into your mouth. It grosses me out so much.
Gorby's going to have a bowl of corned beef hash when he's playing the VR. So
yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. They did a great job. And, I actually only played a little bit of Enemy Within 2, just because it was a demo. But they have a very similar scene, and it just didn't feel the same. Now, I'm going to give that game a little bit more time. I'm going to get through their demo, but I have not as of yet.
So are you sure that your favorite horror movie of the year wasn't Friday the 13th, Gorby?
Shut the hell up.
We may have mentioned this on the podcast before, but for those who haven't heard it, we all said, hey, one Friday night, let's all get Friday the 13th to play the co-op because it would be a fun game to play together. And it was like Gorby couldn't even get in, couldn't get a Steam refund. We got in, you couldn't level up your spending into your points. It was like a broken mess, and most of us refunded it.
But the game wasn't even that scary. And it was so, like, Jason is so OP in that game. You cannot get away from it. I don't know how people win.
Yeah, and so, I didn't ever think it was going to be scary, but they did totally screw me. It took me 2 hours of trying to get in and then trying to get a refund, and it was too late.
Because you hit that 2 hour mark where they say, no, you played it for too long.
Yeah.
Okay, well, go ahead.
So, hang on. What about you then, Crunk? What's your game of the year then?
Not my game of the year. Biggest surprise.
Oh, sorry. My bad. What's your biggest surprise?
My biggest surprise is Nier Automata. That game just really floored me. My initial impressions were that it looked neat, but it was kind of a one-trick pony. And it's a game that probably takes too long to develop into what makes it special, because you got to very purposefully you play through the first part of the story feeling like it's a very generic story. A neat sci-fi universe, but very generic. Good guys versus bad guys, and some of the things are blatantly obvious. The subtlety of what the world is blatantly obvious, and you don't really start getting the subtlety of the story and the nuance of what makes it special until you play through the part of the story again as the second character, and that starts to open your eyes to the bigger picture, what's really going on. And then this is a pretty big spoiler. If you don't want to hear spoilers for Nier Automata, skip about 5 minutes ahead. There, you were warned. Basically, in the middle of the C part of the story, the main character dies and is permanently dead for the rest of the game. And
What?
that's a very big narrative risk that most good movies can't pull off. I think the Coen brothers maybe did it successfully. And
Is that sorry to interrupt, is that the girl?
Yes,
Right.
2B is her name. She dies. It ends up not being. I mean, it starts asking questions about what it is to exist and to be real. Are you real if someone makes an exact copy of you and takes your memories and dumps them in that new copy? Is that you? Or it's like the old, if you replace a wooden boat one board at a time, and at the end when you replace the last board, is it still the same boat or not? It's kind of like the modern sci-fi version of that question. And I'm not quite finished with it, but I know enough about what's coming and having conversations. I've got a little bit of the ending spoiled for me, but it really blew me away. I mean, it's got great action in it. It's got some light RPG elements as far as like upgrading your character, and it's a genre-bending game. 1 minute it's a side-scrolling hack and slash. The next minute it's a bullet hell game where you're running around on the ground. Next thing you're jumping into a mech and flying around in the air, and it's a 3-dimensional bullet hell game. And then it's a twin stick shooter. I mean, it does it seamlessly. There's a hacking mini game that the second character, 9S is his name. That's how he attacks predominantly, is to hack, and it warps you into a little like Atari looking retro game where you have to shoot little dots and dodge bullet hell stuff. And it all works seamlessly in one package that really blew me away.
There's another game that did that. I don't know if you played Red Dead.
Red Dead Redemption?
Yeah. Not, I'm talking about the protagonist dying.
Oh yeah, right at the end, yeah.
But I guess it didn't say it very well. He died at the end, but this game, your lead character dies halfway through the game.
No, same in that game. Like it wasn't the end of the game. You come back as his son.
No, it's the end of the storyline though, Gorby.
Yeah, it's like a second playthrough with his son.
Bah!
Did you even play Red Dead? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, bro.
No, I didn't. Not really.
You come back as his son in like the zombie mode, right?
No, it's like a regular storyline. Now I gotta look.
I think you play as a son like the final mission. There is a mission at the end without Marcus was his name, I think. Not Marcus. It's been a while. Was that PS3?
Yeah.
Yeah, 360. Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those games.
It's a really good game. Don't get me wrong.
I just wish they'd released it for PC though.
Yeah, there's talk that the Red Dead Redemption 2 or whatever it is might come for PC, but later on.
John Marston.
Yeah,
there it is.
I remember his name.
Marcus is the
Gears of War guy.
Thank you.
Marcus
that game,
Phoenix.
Man, I played through the second Gears of War and skipped the ending.
Wow,
how's that?
Like I finished it, I'm like, I don't give a crap, and just didn't start. I just didn't
Great
care.
narrative.
Sorry, it just wasn't the thing.
So we've gone most surprising. What was your most disappointing game of 2013 or 2013? 2017.
Oh, what? You get it right.
What year is it? Cherry, go ahead.
Most disappointing game. Oof. I might have to think about this one.
All right, you got one lined up, Gorby?
If I really think about it, no, because I expected Friday the 13th to be crap.
Yeah.
I know what mine is. Now looking at the I have the categories from the Game Awards, and for me it's South Park: The Fractured But Whole.
Really? You played quite a bit of it to be disappointed.
I lost interest in it. I really did. I I wanted it to be really, really good. I was looking forward to playing it because I played the first one, and the first one was immense. Like, it was a South Park game. Who doesn't enjoy South Park in game form? And for the hype around this one, with the release date being put back and things changing and everything about that, and when it eventually came out, like I did enjoy it, but only for a certain time. It didn't make me want to go back and finish it. And to this day, I've only gotten so far through it, and I have no intention of going back to play it.
Well, that's fair. I didn't finish it either, to be fair. I got probably 50% through the story, and I laughed my head off. I mean, I did a lot of it on stream, and maybe I just really needed a good comedy, or I was real susceptible to comedy that weekend, but man, I laughed a lot. I plan on finishing it.
Oh, yeah, like, the writing itself is great. It's the classic South Park script, anything like that, all the jokes and anything like that. But as a game itself, it just disappointed me.
Gotcha. Have you got one, Gorby?
Possibly. I don't really want to say it because I really didn't put the time into it, but it wasn't grabbing me, and that would be Divinity 2.
Oh yeah, that was the big massive RPG. It was very critically well received. A lot of people's game of the year. Was it a time thing, or was it the difficulty spike got you?
I think that the problem I'm realizing is that nostalgia will only take me so far into games, and that game is very reminiscent. It's the same style of Baldur's Gate 2, Icewind Dale, Planescape Torment, all those games. Which I loved 20 years ago. However, now I don't want to play it anymore, and I think that was my biggest problem with that game.
It just left too much. It relied too much on nostalgia.
Yeah, well, it probably didn't, but I think I'm past that type of gameplay.
Yeah, I can relate to that for sure.
Isn't it one of those games that you need like a ton of spare time to put into it as well?
Yes. Another mistake I made this year. But I really wanted to try it out because I thought, maybe if it gets hooked. I'm like, if I have 400 hours in a PUBG, why can't I play 100 hours of this game? And then life just got in the way, and the game is difficult. Like, unfairly difficult, probably, is the way to put it.
Yeah.
And that really bugs me when it's like that, when things are like that. Now, I didn't play any of the major things people are pissed about this year. No Battlefront 2, no Shadow of War, no Call of Duty, none of those games. But that game, for whatever reason, just didn't do it for me. Didn't play Mass Effect either, and I love those games typically.
Yeah, we talked about big games this year, and those were big franchises, but I think most of those games you just mentioned kind of fell on their face a bit. I mean, they have their fans, but like the critical success didn't work. I think the difference is Call of Duty's, did they go to World War I again? That sold pretty well.
They went to World War II. Battlefield last year went to World War I.
Okay. I haven't played a Call of Duty game since Cherry had me playing, was it Black Ops?
Black Ops 3, yeah.
On the PS4, and I remembered that I'm no good at that.
I love those games. No. The stories are decent. They're usually pretty fun to play through those campaigns, but I haven't purchased one since Ghost, and that was just because it was a launch Xbox One game.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I don't think I played that one either.
Yeah, my son did, my oldest son, but by that time I had kind of cashed out the chips on all Call of Duty and all those games. It's fun to play those games. Like, I don't mind, but the community that surrounds them really bugs me. And if you don't have a full squad of your friends, it's a nightmare.
Just off topic, going back to disappointments, which I'd actually forgotten was released last year. It was Tekken 7.
I almost said that, by the way, but you go ahead.
Yeah, I used to be a huge fan of Tekken. Like, it was the fighting game that I grew up on the PS1, the PS2, etc. And I don't think I played one since like Tekken Tag, maybe. I think that was PlayStation 2. And there was a lot of hype around Tekken 7.
Hyped.
Yeah, exactly. And then I was really excited to play it, and I got it when it first came out, and I'm not kidding. Like after 2 days, I was like, oh, man, this isn't what it's all cracked up to be.
So how much of that do you guys think is attributed to just us being older, or is it because that genre has aged poorly, or was it just a bad version of that genre?
I think personally that I've never, unless I'm playing with somebody, those are couch co-op games for me.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And I really didn't have anybody to play that one with. My wife will play Killer Instinct, but that's about it. Some Mortal Kombat, which was always my game when I was a kid, but that's about it. And I'm not very good at them. I know it's hard to believe.
I love Street Fighter, and I could play that till the cows come home.
I think that's probably the two camps that you have to either be in one or the other, is Tekken or Street Fighter.
Or Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat's not, yeah. Sorry.
And I'm definitely in the Mortal Kombat camp. And that's from years of working. I worked in an arcade for a couple of summers in the 90s.
Back when you were 46?
Yep. I was getting ready to retire, and I thought, I'll be working in arcades.
Okay. What about you, Crunk, then? What's your biggest disappointment?
My biggest disappointment this year was not because I expected it to be great, but just how embarrassingly bad it was. And this is a game called The Surge. Yeah. I bought it. I mean, it's not necessarily the game's fault because I'm prone to be very, very thorough in figuring out what game I'm going to get, read lots of reviews, get a good consensus of critical reviews. And man, I just fell in love with the idea of a sci-fi Souls game. I love Dark Souls type games. I love sci-fi. This is made by the people who made Lords of the Fallen, which was not a great game, but it was decent. They're going to learn some lessons. All the initial word was that it's not perfect, but it was really good. It's a solid game experience there. And oh my God, I hate that game. Like, I hate it because I paid full price for it. Played it. I wanted to play it till I liked it. I was like, it's just frustrating because it's new. I'll get over it. The very first boss I fought was this like Ed 209 looking motherfucker from RoboCop that and his hitbox wasn't fair. He'd hit me with this like melee attack, and it clearly didn't hit me, but it would count as a hit. And how many you guys watched me stream that a few times? How many times did I fight that thing?
Enough.
I came in a rage. You were pissed. I was like, I'm
out. I'm out. Yeah, and that's the thing. You guys have seen me play enough of these games. A game being hard does not deter me. It's when a game's patently unfunny or unfun and unfair, and it was both of those. I was really mad about that game too, because like you with Friday the 13th, I put in, because I know these games, you got to put in a lot of time to see if you like it. I put in much time on it, and then it sucked, and I couldn't get a refund. I was just stuck with it.
Yeah, I do remember you watching you stream that, and it just wasn't clicking with you, and you were like, I'll put it down for a little bit, or maybe I'm not in the right mood, or it's not the right time, I'll come back to it. And you did go back to it. You gave it a fair chance, and obviously it just didn't work.
No, it was not good. In fact, I played Lords of the Fallen maybe a year or two before on PS4. It was when PS4 was kind of new and there weren't a lot of titles for it. And even it had some of the same limitations. And it felt like Dark Souls 2 to me. Like, you could tell what they were going for. They just didn't quite polish it up. They didn't get it quite there.
Right.
Was the Surge... Sorry, Crump.
I was just saying, it had some interesting mechanics with the armor and the upgrade pass and stuff I was kind of excited about. I like a game with try some new things. So I don't feel terrible that a developer took some risks and got my money, but I just wish I would have paid full price for it.
Yeah, how much was it that you paid?
$60.
Oh man, you got a refund for that?
Nope, played it too long.
It's so funny that since I've come back to more PC gaming and console gaming, I don't want to pay $60 for a game.
No, I mean, I paid $60 for Nier, you can't really find it anywhere because it's interesting, it's new, it's unique, and it was a risky move, and in a world today where the only big budget games are surefire bets. Well, what's expected to be a surefire bet, sequel, or heavily inspired to look exactly like a game we've always played. I fear that we sometimes miss out on the unique items, the unique AAA gambles. Nintendo will make gambles like that still, but most of the big, PS4 and Xbox games come out. They're either the gambles are all on indie titles to prove a concept, and then the big guys will gobble it up. And it makes me sick to my stomach that kind of behavior is rewarded. I really like to see innovation in the industry and see new ideas flourish and reward those things. Like Cuphead was a new idea this year. Things like PUBG was not necessarily a brand new idea, but new to the masses, and it blew up. I love those kind of stories in gaming more than, hey, Call of Duty 1400 is out and we've slightly modified the guns and now it's in ancient Rome instead of, whatever. That kind of stuff bothers me. Or Ubisoft's really bad about putting out the same game with just slight variations over and over again.
Yeah, totally agree.
Well, that brings us to your game of the year. You guys have game of the year lined up, Cherry?
Oh, yeah.
Would it be, I'm pretty sure it's Dark Souls 3.
Oh, damn, you got it in one then. Yeah, okay. Because that was released in 2017.
That was a couple years ago.
No, my game of the year is, without doubt, hands down, is Mario Odyssey for the Switch.
You go out and buy a Switch just to play it, didn't it?
It really did, just for that one game. But ironically, that wasn't the first game that I played in it. It was Legend of Zelda that I played. Breath of the Wild was the first game I played on the Switch.
Well, you got to tell them the story about what made you finally break down and buy a Switch.
Wait, what story?
Your sister got one, and you were so jealous of it.
Yes, yeah, that was a nice surprise that I got, I guess. Just before Christmas, I've been wanting to Switch since Mario Odyssey had been out. So when was that released? October, November?
Yeah, October.
So ever since then, I hadn't played the game. I've seen loads of gameplay on it, through Twitch and YouTube, loads of videos, and it made me want to buy a Switch just purely for that game. And come just before Christmas, my sister comes into my room and she says, "Oh, look what I've got," and brings out a Nintendo Switch. And I was like, "Oh,
Did
great."
you look at her with big puppy dog eyes and go, "Oh, is that for me?"
No, I was drowning in a sea of bitterness more than anything because she had Mario Odyssey with it as well. That was the bundle that she got with it.
Yeah, I remember you getting on PUBG that night. We were all playing, and you're just like, "Yeah, fine, whatever." I was like, "Whoa, what's wrong?" You're like, "My sister got a Switch." I'm like, "Really?"
Yeah, it didn't go down well in my book, but just gloss over that anyway. But
now look at all the fun you guys have had together.
Oh, so much. Yeah. So, yeah, I eventually managed to put some money together and buy a Switch for myself and get... I actually got Zelda on a hard copy as well. My sister had Odyssey on a hard copy as well, so we're interchanging cartridges as well at the moment. So I have Mario Odyssey playing on my Switch, and I am absolutely in love with this game so much.
So what about it made it special? I mean, do you like the 3D? Does it feel like Mario 64 again to you? Or
yeah, I think a lot of it is to do with the nostalgic feel of it. Because one of my favorite consoles is the N64, and I remember playing Mario 64 for hours on end when we had that. And I think it was probably one of the first, if not the first, 3D game that I'd ever played. So the nostalgia side to it really, really gets kicked into full force when you play Mario Odyssey. So a lot of that is to do with it. But aside from that, the whole game as itself is so well put together, and it just makes you want to play more. There's loads and loads and loads of collectibles that you can get. There's 800 plus moons, I think, in the entire game. But aside from that, there's also other discoveries that you can make. You can, which I actually only found out today, going through some of the menus. You can discover the different enemies that you've put your hat on or your cap on. So you have those lists to fill. It just seems so vast, and I can't wait to play more of it.
That's awesome. I played the hell out of it when it came out, but I did it like I mentioned. I machine gunned the story, and then I started going back and trying to find all the moons, and it started to lose attention time for me with other games coming out and other things I needed to do. But I still pick it up and play it here and there. I was hoping my daughter would get into it more, but she really didn't.
Did she say why?
It's not Roblox.
That's fair enough.
Yeah, my wife and my son put it on. I think there's a basic mode, which is like Yoshi's Woolly World had that on the Wii U.
Yeah, for like
So
little kids.
Right. So the 5-year-old loved it and they finished it and they were, I don't know where they are on that quest for at least 500 moons, but they're on that quest. I don't know if they'll ever finish it, but they were at like 300 or 400 last time I checked.
It's like an alternate ending, right?
Yeah,
I
definitely.
think the other thing with this game as well is that there are nice little interjections in the game. So they have like 2D sections where you will go through a pipe and then you will come out the other side in 2D style, pixelated format, which looks like Super Mario 1 or... Yeah, it's just Super Mario 1, isn't it? Yeah. So, again, for like the older gamers, that's a really nice touch that they put into it.
My ears are burning. that stuff. I'm not going to say what exactly happens for people who haven't finished the end of the game, but there's a scene at the end that's very iconic, and they do some of that 2-bit stuff, or 8-bit 2D stuff that Cherry was just talking about. And man, it really, like, as close as I do to choking up over a video game, it really reminded me of like those old days. I mean, I'm quite a bit older than you, but my first gaming experience I can remember is playing Super Mario Brothers with my friends at their house across the street growing up. And I don't know how they were able to pull it off in a modern 3D game that switches to 2D, but they've somehow captured some of that magic again. And
yeah, definitely.
Reminded me of those times. It was really awesome. On top of it being just a fantastical, uh, epic, huge story with tons of stuff to do. And that game never stopped surprising me all the way through.
Yeah, for sure. One of the other things about it as well is that I was comparing it to Breath of the Wild, which won Game of the Year eventually anyway. After playing Breath of the Wild, I think I prefer Mario better because while Zelda is great, it's open world, but I sometimes get overwhelmed with how open world it is. Whereas Mario, they have like levels, like they are 3D levels. They're not so much open world, but like in the sense that you can run around and just like go where you want. There's no linear path to it, but they're contained levels, so you know where you are. Whereas in Zelda, I sometimes get a little bit confused where I am in that game.
Yeah, for sure, because it's one big giant world.
Yeah.
Well, Gorby, how about you? Would you say you played a couple games in 2017?
So believe it or not, Crunk, at the beginning of the year, I decided I was going to finish games. And I did.
That worked out for you.
Well, you guys would be surprised. It started in November of year now, 2016, when Final Fantasy 15 launched.
Yeah.
I powered through that thing. No matter how bad that story was, I finished it.
It's over. It's done.
Right, and I could have went back and done all, but the credits roll, I'm usually done with a game. So it began the year, I believe the first game I really put a lot of time into was Neo, which is my number 3 game of the year.
Okay.
It's just it's Dark Souls, but it takes away some of that stuff that lost feeling that Cherry was just talking about with how massive Zelda is. It takes it away and puts it into missions, which is wonderful. So Neo is my 3rd game of the year. Okay, number 2. This is a shock to me because in 10 years from now, I'm gonna look back at this year and know what my number 1 game should have been, but it truly is Zelda. Zelda is amazing. I spent 100 hours running around Hyrule, gliding off stuff, climbing trees, climbing mountains, cooking shit, which,
yeah. I recently got into cooking, and man, that takes time, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that game is going to go down as probably one of the best games ever. I'm certain of that at some point. It takes a couple of years for that to really start hitting. And my number 1 is, of course, PlayerUnknown's Battleground. Based on the social outlet I got from that game, based on reconnecting with a lot of people I haven't talked to in years, making new friends, and shooting people in the face, I can't say I had more fun anywhere else. As frustrating as that game can be, it's so many things wrapped up there. For me to put more than 10 hours into a game is something. But for me to put in damn near 400 hours, even if it's watching somebody while I'm dead, that is an amazing accomplishment that hasn't happened since games like Civilization 2, games like WoW, games along those just totally. But if you look at this game and you just say, well, this is just a bunch of people landing on islands shooting each other, how can this be fun? Well, I can see why people don't think this is going to be a lasting thing, but we're already seeing it get cloned all over the industry. There are probably 5 or 6 clones out there with 5 or 10 more on its way. I had just a great amount of time. I'm still playing it, and it's been damn near a year. It's been 10 months. I think I bought it at the end of March last year, right after it launched, and it's just stuck with me. But that is my top 3. I didn't play enough of Mario to put it on my list. Mario is pretty cool. I do have to say I prefer 2D Marios, which sounds really ridiculous.
Get out of here.
I do. I really liked 3D Land, and I really liked the land ones.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, this one, it's really good. However, I couldn't find the time to put into it. I don't know why. Probably because my wife and kid were on it.
You're out playing PUBG. You're like, well, I could fight him for it, but I'll just go play PUBG instead.
Right. And just quickly, some honorable mentions of really good games this year. Another game that we spent a lot of time in as a group, or at least some of us, Destiny 2, was good for about a month, and it was a lot of fun. Resident Evil 7 is up there. Xenoblade, probably if I had a top 10, would be in that list. I really like that game. I probably will go back to that at some point. And a game that's not getting enough attention, and I can't believe I bought it because there's not enough time in the day for me to play it, is Metroid, Samus Returns. So
yeah, that one actually one of the categories, that one, Gorby.
Yeah, it's a really good Metroid game. I just hate playing on the DS, and if it comes to Switch, I will buy it again and enjoy it.
Is that because your hands are too big?
Yes, typically it's really hard to hold that thing, and those sticks are so small.
Yeah, I bought when I played Monster Hunter on the 3DS for a time. I bought one of those extender things, and it really helped me to be able to game on it longer than 20 minutes.
Right, and that game requires you to shoot at an angle, that kind of stuff. So that's one thing. Next Machina, probably the best twin stick shooter I've seen or played in many years, and I can't get past the second level. And I've tried.
Did you try playing it on easy?
I already told you that story.
Yeah, your buddy was playing on easy. He's like, "What's the problem, dude?" Well, Cherry, since Gorby hogged up a bunch of time and gave us a top 3, do you have a 3 and a 2 you want to share?
I think I'm in agreement with Gorby that Zelda is definitely up there as well. That one kind of took me by surprise. I did actually have it for the Wii U originally, but it never grabbed me. I don't know why. I don't know if it was the console itself or what the problem was, but I got bored very quickly on that. But playing it on the Switch is a whole different experience for some reason.
That frame rate, probably. There's a Wii U.
Yeah. It's probably something to do graphically wise as well. So yeah, Zelda's probably up there as well. Top 3?
Cuphead?
No, I wouldn't put Cuphead up there because it probably would be PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, because much like Gorby has said, the amount of hours that we've put into that game, I've never experienced a game like that before. I've never had a game on Steam that I've put over 300 hours into, and I don't know what it is about it that makes me go back to it all the time.
I think Gorby hit it right when he said that it's the social aspect of it is a big draw. The random crazy shit that can happen. It's a fun shooter at times. It's frustrating as hell at times, but it's fun. It can be rewarding in those ways. Plus, it's I mean, I don't know. I'm sure I'm speaking for everybody here. While we're talking, I have emails and messages coming up. Hey, are you playing PUBG? Let's get on and play some PUBG. Like everybody's talking about it. Wolf and Dama are messaging each other right now on my Discord about, hey, where are the guys at? Oh, they're recording a podcast. When are they going to get on and play? I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to give you my top three, and PUBG's not on there. And I know I'm close to 600 hours, and it's not because it's not a great game and it wasn't influential. It's just because if I had to boil it down to three, PUBG would probably be my number 4. But my number 3 is a game I haven't even finished, but I watched enough people play it. I'm watching Chichin play it right now. Again, I think I watched Cherry play it. Is Hollow Knight, and that's because,
oh wow, really?
Yeah, that game has a level of polish and artistry for a small studio to pull off that it's the trifecta of games. It's got great sound design, great controls, and great art style and character style. It's world as a character in that it's this bug universe. Everything fits within that world. All the player character, all the NPCs that you talk to, and the creatures you fight are all bugs and fit in that world exactly. It's kind of more of a Metroidvania style game than it is. Some people will say it's a 2D Dark Souls. It's not really. It's more of a Metroidvania, and I don't really like that genre. I played Metroid back in the 80s when it was new and liked it because I had all the time in the world to just wander around and be lost in a 2D side scroller. But this game, something about the audio of it. Many times I'd be working and I'd have your stream on while I was at work, Cherry, and listen to you fighting the bosses, and they have like this. They don't actually speak English. They speak like this gibberish, but
yeah.
And the boss fights would have these battle yells that was kind of sing-songy, and it all just like it was a world that felt immersive. Just to even watch other people play it, I really enjoyed it.
Actually, now that you mention it, that was one that I'd actually forgotten about. But I had so much fun playing that game. I really did, and it was one that took me by surprise because I think it was you, Crunk, that mentioned it to me and actually got me to play it.
Oh, really?
Oh, it might have been D. I think it was D that mentioned it to me.
Yeah, I think you're right. I remember that now.
If she hadn't have said it, it would have totally flown under my radar. I would never have gone and played it.
Did you finish it?
Yeah, I did.
I thought you did. Yeah, I played it on a couple of streams, but I found it to be it's not engaging enough to stream it, and it's hard for me to play a game when I'm not on stream anymore. But speaking of that, my number 2 is definitely Xenoblade Chronicles, because Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I was very surprised by, because I played Xenoblade Chronicles 1 on the Wii way back, and I love that game. Not so much for all the mechanics. The mechanics in that aren't as polished as they are in part 2, but part 1 has an incredibly engaging and compelling story. Xenoblade is a series that has a lot of tedious mechanics and menu, weird idiosyncrasies of it. Like the map is really hard to use because they focused all their time and energy on making the story. And Xenoblade Chronicles 2 story is not what I expected, but it's good. It's just totally different than Xenoblade Chronicles 1. I won't go into all the detail on Xenoblade because we talked about it earlier, but it is definitely my number 2 game of the year. And obviously number 1 is Nier Automata. That game really surprised me, as I mentioned earlier. For all the reasons I said, it was the most surprising game of the year. I think it combines a heady story with great combat, art style, and direction, and it has the best soundtrack of any game this year, I think. And I would recommend it to anybody if those things sound appealing to you. There some people, some of the things I heard about it early on that made me hesitant was that you just replay it over and over again to get the different things. That's not true, but I understand why they didn't go out of their way to make that obvious. It very much serves the story for you to not expect what's going to happen. And I would highly recommend that anyone check it out.
Well, I'm not gonna now. You wrecked it during this podcast.
Well, you weren't going to play it anyway.
I blame their stupid demo they put on PlayStation. It was a bad demo.
Yeah, you were the one who was like, I go, hey, I'm thinking about this game. And you're like, oh no.
It was just a really bad demo it was basically a walking simulator in the section they put you in.
Really?
So, yeah.
I know that I think his name is Hoki Toro. I'm probably butchering his name. I could do some research for a game that I love and just said it was my game of the year. But that he's kind of a weird guy. He wears that near mask around in public or in press events, and he has a history of making these just insanely strange games that are like quirky and odd. And I if I only had 100 more hours a month to dump into it, I'd go back and play some of those. But as we talked about pretty much this whole podcast, time's a premium that we don't have anymore.
Definitely not.
So, do you guys have any big games on the 2018 radar that you're keeping a close eye on?
So real quick, my year, I looked. There's not a ton. There's about 3 games that look interesting to me. So as good as 2017 was, I'm worried that 2018 is going to be a dry year.
Right.
Monster Hunter World, definitely, and I'll probably end up getting it here in a couple weeks on the PlayStation just to play around with it with some friends. The new Red Dead I will play.
Yes, that is one on my list as well. If it gets released for a PC, though.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's going to. I just don't know. And I'm missing one, but those are the 2 that I'm really looking forward to.
What about you, Cherry?
I was just desperately trying to think, and I actually can't think of anything off the top of my head. Come back to me in a second.
Well, I definitely agree with
Far Cry 5, maybe.
I'm not crazy about Far Cry series, but I understand and that they're fun for a lot of people. Monster Hunter World, when it comes to PC, I'll get it. I'm probably not going to buy it on PS4 unless Gorby talks me into it.
I'm going to talk you into it because we're not going to wait till fall.
I don't know. It just depends. I'll watch reviews. I'm very much looking forward to. Probably won't release in 2018, but the whatever FromSoft's making that 10-second demo they showed during the Game Awards. I'm going to keep an eye on, but I'm not getting overhyped about it. There's a vampire-looking game from Bandai Namco. What was that game called? Something Blood, not Blood. Have you guys seen the trailer for that?
Nope.
Go and check it out, Gorby. That looks quite impressive. I think I mentioned it to you, Crunk, because it was along the lines of Dark Souls, and I thought you might like it. It's anime style as well. So,
what was it called again?
Code Vein.
So it had something to do with blood, veins, whatever. Another big one is Ni no Kuni 2. I think that one's going to sneak up on people because Ni no Kuni did not wow many people. It didn't make a bunch of waves, but it's a game that at least the original one was co-designed with the studio Ghibli or Ghibli, however you pronounce it, movie studio over in Japan, and it's a storybook come to life kind of game. And I think those games have a tendency to be more immersive because they kind of touch on some overarching, coming of age themes.
Sure.
That was the most dismissive sure I've ever heard.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Whatever, dude. Monster Hunter World for sure. Far Cry 5 is a good one.
Psychonauts 2 is next year. Toe Jam and Earl back in the group. I'm not going to play any of these games, but these are definitely games that are going to sell.
What about the big Spider-Man re-release? That harkening back to the good old days. Think they'll be able to pull that off?
I don't think it's going to come out next year. I bet it's January, and I will buy that. I know a friend of mine, Delphius, will be buying a PlayStation 4 specifically for that game.
Yeah. Or have you guys been following the news on that EA game Anthem?
That's the other one.
It's supposed to be a BioWare game that's a Destiny killer.
I thought it was going to be like Paladins is an Overwatch clone. I thought it was an Overwatch clone. As soon as I heard it was a Destiny killer, I was like, I'm interested.
Or God of War is a big one. That looks like a more adult-looking God of War game.
I don't like God of War games. I'm probably the only person in the world.
This one looks to be more like, at least my impression of it is more like Last of Us, story-driven.
We'll see. Maybe. I don't like the press. That rhythm type action.
Yeah.
Not my thing.
Were you a big Were either of you a big Kingdom Hearts fan?
I did not play it. I wanted to actually. I just didn't.
they say that it's going to come out on PS4, Xbox One, Kingdom Hearts 3 this year.
Well, the new one. Okay, sorry.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's finally the new one, but I think it's been delayed for like 2 years in a row.
Not surprised.
So there's 3 titles that I'm interested in watching, not particularly playing, but there's one that's called Days Gone, one that's called Detroit Become Human, and
Yeah, I've seen that one.
one called A Way Out, which I think looks quite an interesting concept.
Yeah, for sure. That's the Prison Break game.
Yeah, they designed it so it's meant to be played in split screen co-op. So I don't know quite how that is going to be achieved, but the concept of it looks really interesting because you see it from both the brothers that are in the prison. You see it from both angles, and there are times when you're not going to be with each other. So it's kind of I'm hoping it will be kind of cool to see that.
I think that I read somewhere that one is going to be the game that only one of you has to have the game to play it, even remotely. You can download like a client version.
Oh, nice! That'd be pretty cool.
But I think all those games we mentioned in 2018 look pretty good, or at least ones to follow. And of course, as Gorby mentioned earlier, all of the PUBG clones, because I think whoever comes out with a solid PUBG clone that the net code's better, if it's possible to have that many players on it and have good net code, I think PUBG might lose some ground.
I think if Call of Duty or Battlefield can clone it properly, that will drive some of us back to some of those games.
For sure.
And plus, you've already got the following with those kind of games as well. You're not a new startup, so you already have people that are on board with the Call of Duty or Battlefield games anyway, so they'll be straight on it.
Right.
And I think that's what we all want to do, is play more Battlefield and Call of Duty in 2018, isn't it? Well, guys, Gorby and Cherry, thank you guys so much for being here on the podcast this week. Everybody, thanks for being patient with us as we get geared up again in 2018. Look forward to more episodes, and we will see you guys soon. Bye.
Bye.